For the last 2 decades, one franchise has pretty much defined survival horror on the big screen. It's built this incredible legacy of action, suspense, and of course, so many zombies. We honestly thought the story was over, but, well, a new transmission just broke through the static. Today, we're diving into everything we know about the next huge chapter in the Resident Evil saga.
First up, let's just talk about the scale here, because to really understand how big this is, you need to see this number. $1.2 billion. That's the absolutely staggering amount of money we're talking about, just at the box office. And what's so incredible about that number? It's not from some superhero blockbuster or a giant fantasy epic. Nope. That belongs to a single, relentless horror franchise that's kept us on the edge of our seats for 20 years, Resident Evil. That's right. After all those years of fighting, of surviving, of evolving, the nightmare is far from over. In fact, based on what we've just learned, it's about to get a whole lot worse. Okay, so here's the breaking news. It is official. The next installment in the legendary Resident Evil film series has been announced, and it's titled Resident Evil Requiem. The fan forums are absolutely exploding, the theories are flying, and we're here to cut through all that noise and explain everything we know right now. So, let's start with the vitals, the basic info. It's a full-feature film, and it's projected to run between 90 and 120 minutes, which is pretty standard for the series. Now, the big question, when can we actually see it? The release window is looking like 12 to 18 months from now. So yeah, the countdown has officially begun.
Now, to really understand where Requiem might be going, we have to look back at where this franchise has been. This isn't just another movie, right? It's the latest entry in a cinematic saga that's been going for over 2 decades, evolving and even rebooting itself along the way.
I mean, this series has been on an incredible journey. You go from that super claustrophobic start back in 2002, and then the fight goes global in Extinction. The plot just tied itself in knots in Retribution, and then it all seemed to end with the final chapter in 2016. And then, just when we thought we knew the whole story, 2021's Welcome to Raccoon City took us all the way back to the beginning. It has been a wild ride.
And this really shows the 2 different paths the franchise has taken. On one hand, you've got the 6-film Alice saga, that high-action, super-stylized universe built around Milla Jovovich's iconic character. But then, on the other hand, you have the recent Raccoon City reboot, which was a much more faithful, horror-focused take on the video games. And this all leads to the biggest question for Requiem: which path is it going to follow?
So, with all that history in mind, let's get to the heart of it all, the story of Requiem. What is this new film actually about? Well, the studio is keeping things locked down pretty tight, but some key details about the outbreak are starting to emerge.
The creators are promising an immediate sense of just how big this is. The T-virus outbreak in this thing is apparently more intense and widespread than anything we've seen before. We're talking about a full-on post-disaster world where just surviving minute to minute is a struggle. Let's break down this new scenario. The setting is a brand new, undisclosed location, so it's expanding the world beyond places we know. The story is confirmed to pick up after previous films, with promises to finally resolve some of those long-standing cliffhangers. And maybe most excitingly, we're getting new characters, new monstrous creatures, and plot twists nobody will see coming. And speaking of new characters, the cast is shaping up to be this really compelling mix of old and new. We're going to see some returning heroes facing this new threat right alongside a fresh batch of survivors, which should create some really cool new dynamics and alliances. But there's one returning hero everyone is asking about. And here it is. This is the confirmation fans have been waiting for. Milla Jovovich will return as the one and only Alice. This is a massive piece of news because it directly connects Requiem to the original 6-film saga, and it confirms that her fight against the Umbrella Corporation is definitely not over. Of course, you can't talk about a Resident Evil movie without talking about the legendary video games that started it all. For so many fans, the success of any adaptation really just comes down to one thing: how well does it honor the source material? Well, the philosophy from the filmmakers seems pretty clear. The goal isn't just to copy and paste the games, but to capture their spirit, that unique blend of horror, action, and puzzle solving, and then use that to push the story in a bold, new cinematic direction. And they're not just saying this either. The team is actively putting beloved elements from the games into the movie. We're talking about recreations of classic locations, seeing iconic items like the green herb, and, most importantly, the live-action debut of some of the most terrifying enemies from the games. We're talking zombies, lickers, and even the huge hulking tyrants. So you've got the official announcement, a returning star, and a promise to honor the games. So how is the world reacting?
As you can imagine, the buzz is huge, and the conversation online is filled with both excitement and, let's be honest, a healthy dose of fan anxiety.
Yeah, the online chatter is really focused on a few key questions. There's this passionate debate about fidelity, like how close should it really stick to the games? There are fears about how they'll handle certain beloved characters. And with 2 different cinematic timelines now in play, fans are definitely concerned about continuity and how Requiem is going to tie everything together.
Now, it's still really early, but a few critics who have seen some preliminary footage are starting to weigh in, and the initial feedback sounds pretty promising. This one early review highlights the film's success in ramping up tension and delivering on the action, which really suggests the filmmakers are striking that classic Resident Evil balance.
And on the business side of things, expectations are just sky high. Box office analysts are already predicting a really strong opening weekend. With a massive built-in fan base and a long track record of success, all signs are pointing to Requiem being another huge blockbuster for the franchise. All of this really puts Requiem in a unique position. You've got the return of Alice, a commitment to the game's horror roots, and a story that seems to be bridging the past and the future. This thing has the potential to be so much more than just another sequel. This could be the chapter that finally unites the 2 distinct worlds of the Resident Evil cinematic universe. The only question is, will it succeed? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.